Hey, Grand Ascension, everyone. It's me, Nisi, Carolyn Denise, back to do another reading. As you know, this week I'm taking a break, close screens, which I'm very tempted to check my email right now, but I'm not going to. I wanted to jump on here and just read a chapter with you all. I did a couple of videos yesterday, and so I want to keep the momentum going. So I'm going to be reading from Flying Serpents and Dragons. All right, we're going to just deep dive right into it. I'm reading chapter 7, the Sumerian names for dragons. Okay, this is going to be a short read. Okay, it says the reptiles or dragons descend to earth. The concept of a winged, legged serpent or flying reptile breathing fire that could fly the skies at will appears to have originated in ancient Sumer. The Sumerian cuneiform tablets are replete with references to these dragons. They had very specific descriptive names for them. And then, if you follow me over on Facebook, because this video is going to be uploaded in a couple different platforms, if you follow me over on Facebook, I have compliments of my youngest baby boy, Devin, uploaded a diagram or pictogram of the different classifications of dragons. Okay. I actually found that fascinating when my son and I were talking about it, and he showed me. And then I went and did more research over it and cross referenced it in a couple of the texts that I have here. So, I may try to upload it over here on YouTube and on TikTok and on Instagram again. I know I did it over on Facebook, but it's very fascinating how there are different classifications of dragons. And a lot of people have miscategorized these, okay? And it's very easy or common to do. So it says that they had very specific descriptive names for them. Traditional translations seem to treat these references as being merely allegorical, okay? In other words, many historians believe that these were merely colorful metaphors, a result of vivid imaginations of the ancients. This is in spite of the repeated references to their gods as fiery and flaming serpents. Undoubtedly, these references are based on actual events and experiences that took place in their past history. And I'm going to say there's a group of people that I do follow over on social media, on Facebook, in several different groups. And we've talked about how the Bible is a, metaphor. And I've done search, or I have books on Edward Casey wrote, Madame Blavatsky. I see this man's face in my head, but I cannot think of his name. What is his name? His books are up here. I can't think of his name, but he's very well known. Anyway, he's very well known in the occult and mysticism area. So I've studied several different authors and looked at their theories and cross-referenced it with my mentor, who has now passed away. He had cancer several years ago. He passed during the height of COVID in 2020. Gerald Clark. Um, you know, I know, and it's not a belief, because a belief is a lack of knowledge. I know that these reptiles exist. Okay, my son he handled two Komodo dragons, so we had dragons in the family and snakes. I had a grand snake, so I am of the understanding that these beings actually do live. Okay, they live a very long time, and there are many people that have seen cryptids or creatures in the swamps, in national forests. So I am not a person that will say it's a metaphor, because I know that it's open to interpretation for many people, but I'm here to tell you that these things are real. Okay, so it's not a metaphor. In my understanding, it's not. Okay, not in the knowledge and the wheelhouse that the Creator has allowed me to tap into. That's not my understanding. Okay, these creatures do exist. So they want to say it's a metaphor and that these people have vivid imaginations of ancients, right? And it says, this is in spite of the repeated references to their gods as fiery flaming serpents. Undoubtedly, these references are based on actual events and experiences that took place in their past history. It may be that they were adapted by succeeding dynasties to reflect their own cultural differences, but the essence of the myth, the underlying event which instituted the myth, was a real happening or event. Yes, yes. Um, Roger at Mud Fossil University and Tyson at Mud Fossils Adventures, and there's a couple of other people I'm trying to call on the top of my head, but they have actually went out and did tests and found giant bones, DNA of giants, DNA of dragons. Bell the dragon. I mean, that was a real story. That wasn't a metaphor. Typhus the dragon is over in South Africa, in the Saharan desert. I mean, I did a video over that on Facebook. I'm just simply saying that these things are real. So it's not a myth. The ancients knew full well that their gods were reptilian creatures who arrived here from elsewhere in the universe and had the ability to fly around at will in the skies. The ancient people probably also witnessed the battles of the gods in the skies over supremacy and power. Now, you've got it twofold. You actually have beings that shapeshift and that can fly and battle in the air and that are a huge size, all right? Or you can also look at it in terms of these reptilian creatures actually had sky vessels, or what we want to call airplanes, or technological advancements to where they could fly and battle each other in the sky, right? A nuclear blast went off in Mohenjo-daro, where the glass was so hot, the sand was so hot that it melted the glass into beads. Okay, so nuclear weapons have been a thing for thousands of years. We just didn't discover this. Okay, that's what the Zionists want you to believe, right? So you can look at it in terms of them flying, or you can look at it in terms of them having that capability of the technology to fly and battle each other in the sky with what we would call modern day aircraft. Okay. All right. So it says, in a fragment from one of the earliest known Sumerian tablets dated about 3500 BC, and I've read some of the Sumerian tablets online on Facebook, pulled it up on my laptop, showed you where to go, how to set up an account, what website to go, how to pull down the tablets and read them for yourself. All right, I've shown you that. And it says 3500 BC, there was a description of the coming of the gods to this planet from the skies long before the event of the deluge. Okay. At a time when the earth was engulfed in a dense cloud cover, the reptilian nature of the gods is explicit. The reptiles verily descended the earth in resplacement as a well-watered garden. At that time, Enki and Eridu had not appeared. Daylight did not shine. Moonlight had not emerged. In this fragment, there is no attempt to mask the nature of the gods by a metaphor. Later description of their gods as fiery winged serpents developed out of the need to represent them in their literature and art by the only way they knew to make it understandable to the common people. The Sumerians and later the Semitic Akkadians had many names for flying serpents. In some of the myths, the serpent gods are perceived as benevolent and sympathetic to mankind, and the names were complimentary. But in other stories, they were regarded as evil gods. Okay, and I mean, I'm just going to tell you, when you read the so-called Christian Bible, right, King James Version Bible, because you know he did a people want to say a satanic Bible, but I mean, I have the Bible right over behind me. You know, you just have to read and understand what you're reading and then get to a point to where people are going to say what they want to say. You have to use your own discernment as to what you appear to be evil. All right. There's always three sides to a story. There's yours, mine, and then there's the in between of the truth. Okay. So I'm just going to say, when that book was written, there are two different entities that they're talking about. The book is about man. It's about us, okay? But it has science, it has history, it has genealogy in it, it has physics in it. It has a lot of information in it, but you just have to be able to discern it. And it'll take a lifetime for you to study. And every time you read the book, you find something different, right? Just like the Emerald Tablets of Hermes Trismegistus, right? So my point is, that book gives you a description of these beings, right? But that book has been heavily redacted and manipulated. The Bible has been. So it says, later descriptions of the gods as fiery winged serpents developed out of the need to represent them in the literature and at the art by the only way they knew how to make it understandable to common people. Not everybody read. Not everybody could read and write, all right? Because we were never supposed to read and write. If you read the book of Enoch, you'll know that, right? We're supposed to stay willfully dumb and ignorant, right? I'm just telling you. So it says the Sumerians and later the Semitic Akkadians had many names for the flying serpents. In some of the myths, the serpent gods are perceived as benevolent and sympathetic to mankind, and names were complimentary. But in other stories, they were regarded as evil gods, which led to the origin story of the evil dragon as found in the biblical story of the fall of Lucifer. And Lucifer and Satan are two different entities, not the same being. All right? And if you studied, you would know that. The devil, Lucifer, and Satan, everybody wants to lump them in one. No. Different entities altogether. All right. So, and if you know, you know. Satan or Satan is administrator. That's what that word means. It means administrator. Administrator over what or where? That's what you need to ask yourself. All right. The most significant Sumerian term used to describe the flying serpents with the flaming breath was Umshagal, which was a common epithet for the great god Enki, okay, and other major gods. Now, if I had to pick, this is an interesting fact about me. If I had to pick between which side that I would pull myself to, I have Enki tendencies and I have Enlil tendencies, but yet and still I know that I am of a sentient nature, sentient being. I'm not like those two, but I have characteristics of those two. Does that make sense? I can understand where Enki was going. I can understand where Enlil, how he felt. I could understand how Isis felt. I could understand how, Thoth Hermes. What is his name? I can't think of his name. Marduk. I could understand how Marduk felt. I could sympathize or empathize with these beings because I've read their stories, right? I've read it. So I have tendencies of all, right? If that makes sense. So I can't, now they want to say you pick a side, eagle or the serpent. I'm in the, I hate to use these words because these words just not mean what they think or what you think they mean. I'm on the side of sentient humankind. Let me put it that way. All right. I don't want to get in the in between these two factions, though we are being pulled like back and forth between the two, and we're a grand experiment. I'm just going to tell you. So you got to rise above all this and know that you have a power buried deep within you that is hidden, right? And it's being suppressed. So it says, Umshagal, which was a common epithet for the great god Enki and other major gods. Modern translations render the composite word as dragon, within further comment. It is also translated as dragon in the recently published Sumerian Dictionary, Volume 2 of the University of Pennsylvania. Scholars seemed so perplexed by the meaning of Umshagal that they had opted to take the easy way out, just to leave it as dragon. All right. However, if we break the composite word down into a prime components, that is shem, gal, we can arrive at the basic meaning of the term. The basic root word shum, S-H-U-M, means flying serpent and is used in various word combinations to provide a variety of terms, all descriptive of the activities of the flying serpents. Because of the troubling indication that shum may represent a sky vehicle like flaming exhaust, traditional translators prefer to leave the problem unsolved. An exception to rule is the British scholar J. Kenner Wilson. As a trained geologist and respected linguist, he lived in Mesopotamia for many years. He brought a fresh approach to the study and translation of the ancient Sumer. Most academians limit a mythological or religious meaning to terms and events mentioned in Sumerian stories. That is, they treat the events as unreal or imaginary, all right? Because that's the way they're indoctrinated and they're programmed. And as if they did not really happen, right? Wilson suggests that these myths were all based on natural events. True to his scientific specialty, Wilson associated the myths to strange and unusual geological phenomena. In his book, The Rebel Lands, he suggests that the stories are based on the wonder and fear of the ancient peoples as they observed bursts of flames from the rifts in the earth caused by the ignition of gaseous deposits, which suddenly, on occasion, erupted and shot forth into the sky. Despite this tendency to force the ancient myths into a restrictive and format, his translations and analysis are invaluable and a complete departure from academic views. So he takes you on a whole nother whole nother journey. It is refreshing to have a new approach to these translations where everything is not compressed into a religious format. From these new translations, it is apparent that the flying serpents we are dealing with are actually space vehicles of some sort. Many of the translations of Wilson are used in his work. Okay. Umshagal is a Sumerian dragon. The Sumerians had several names for their gods. They all have the basic meaning of flaming flying serpent. An analysis of the elements which made up to the word phrase Shamgal, reveals much. The letter of symbol U up the word phrase Umshagal reveals much. The letter of the symbol U means flying, fiery, or bird-like, and this double meaning indicates that the Sumerians associated flying with flames. As we state before, the term Shum means flying serpent, and it has the same meaning of the Semitic term mush or mosh, and is usually applied, which is discussed below. Gal is the usual Sumerian term for the great or noble, okay, and it is usually applied to the gods or their activities, but it has a meaning of great in the sense of fearsome and formidable. It is used often to describe the terrible weapons of the gods. In summary, it is apparent that the composite word Umshagal means a great fiery flying serpent, presumably a metaphor for a space vehicle of the gods, okay? The reptilian gods, lowercase g, all right? And you got to wonder, we have reptilian brain. Do you not know the schematics or the anatomy of the human body and the brain? Okay, and of our nervous system. So you got to wonder why they say we have a reptilian brain. You can't make this up. You just can't make it up. It's just so clear. If you know, you know. In the early days of Sumer, the great dragon or Umshagal was a complimentary name for a benevolent serpent god. This is seen in the early myth Enki and Inanna, the organization of Earth and its cultural processes, which deals with the organization of activities on Earth. You can read it in the Sumerian text, the Akkadian text. I mean, I've got it all behind me, and you can go out there and you can order the books, or you can go online to UCLA Library, all right? And read that text for yourself, all right? So it says, in this poem, Enki is praised as the great Umshagal, who created the fertile lands of Eden, Edin, and made the world green and prolific. It is a characteristic of many ancient languages that words which refer to the gods, okay, and their activities were considered sacred and could be used only to describe the divinity itself and its activities. Perhaps it is for the reason that Sumerian words were not translated into the Semitic language, which replaced it in Mesopotamia, but transliterated. The Umshagal became Umshelgalu in Akkadian, and the Semitic language which replaced it. Many of the words of the Old Testament, which was written in Hebrew, a form of Western Semitic, is borrowed directly from Sumerian, such as the example of kabod, the term used for the flying chariot of Ezekiel. Okay. In the same story mentioned above, Umshagal is an epithet applied to the god Dumuzi, the husband of Ishtar, Inanna. Okay. I'm telling you, these beings. We have stories of the same beings with the different names over and over and over and over. It's the same freaking group of people. They just changed their names. I'm just telling you. From around the part of, depending on what location you are, what continent you are, right? What text you get it from, and where you read the dialect of the people and the tribes at the time. They have different names for these beings, but it's the same beings. So it says Ishtar Inanna, who is referred to as Umshagal Ananna, or the great fiery flying serpent of heaven. In this passage, which deals with the assignment of tasks on earth by Enki, Dumuzi is put in charge of animal husbandry and agriculture. As the husband of Ishtar, Dumuzi is the subject of numerous stories, most of which deal with the treachery of Ishtar and her role in his destruction. Okay? The use of Shum, or the flying serpent, is also found in another myth called the Inanna and Itheth. The story of the destruction of the unidentified mountain land by Ishtar, Inanna, and Ninurta. Here, Ninurta is called Umshagal ish ha, hish hush, hish ush. Let me say that one more time. Shid igi hush. Whew! Or flying serpent with a fiery look. The term hush is discussed below. It also has the meaning of flying serpent. Ninurta is also called Misha Tura Gagal, Mush Shah Tur Gagal, Mishak Tar Gugal. Mushaturgalgal. Galgal. Or Galgal. Okay? Or literally the flying serpent with the fiery glance. Wilson states that the two appellations have the same meaning, that the terms mush and shum are interchangeable. All right? Evidence for this is found in the fragment of the laudatory poem to the senior god Enlil, where he is called Mush Zu Dingar, or the wise flying serpent god Dinger. Was the standard Sumerian symbol. It appears as a star in cuneiform, all right, to denote godship, and usually preceded the god's name in the written cuneiform, all right. And then this last part, fiery serpent or the mush hush. Another name for the serpent god was called Mush and is often found in the combination mush. It appears frequently with dragon connotations or applications. The Sumerian language often emphasized a term by repetition. Thus, mush would mean a great mush or a great flying serpent. All right. Other combinations of the term are found in the story Inanna and Elil, or Ehih, which are when Ninurta is called Mush-Sha-Tur-Gagal, or great serpent of a fiery glance, in the battle, probably referring to some sort of flame weapon he had available. And Ninurta is also referred to as Mush-Kura, Kura, or the bright or fiery serpent of the mountain land, when did his battle with the evil god Zu, which is discussed below. To emphasize its flaming nature, the word hush or flaming is often added to the term mush, okay? In Semitic Akkadian, it became mush hush shu. The term mush hush, which is often seen in Semitic versions of the myths, was applied to the gods who lived in the heavens, presumably in the orbiting spaceship. That is seen in the tale of Adapa, which is a very good one if you haven't read it. The story of the mortal who is offered immortality by the gods but refuses it. In the story narrated by Adapa, the chief steward of Enki, he describes how he went to heaven to report to the chief god On. All right, so he got in a spaceship, he went up to the craft and he met On. All right, and he had first to pass approval by two guards stationed at the heaven's gate. These gods were Dumuzi, mentioned above, and Ninkazida, who's better known as Thoth Hermes Trismegistus. Right? All right, I'm just saying. Ninkazida is also, get this, he's also Marduk's brother. Tell you it's twisted, y'all. I love these stories because it just gives you the backdrop of what really went down, all right? Because there's a lot of history on this planet, in this Durf Dome. It's just a lot of crap. It really is. So, in Ninkazida, a minor Sumerian god who's associated with immortality and often addressed as the Lord of the Tree of Life, got different names, I'm telling you, same people. He later became the god of healing, all right? He has the serpent, and he's also known as Quetzalcoatl. All right, with the Mayans down there in South America. Ninkazida, Thoth Hermes Trismegistus, Quetzalcoatl, all the same person. He has the serpent, okay, so it says, he has the serpent as the sacred symbol and is often depicted as a serpent with a human head. Both gods are called Mush Hush. Combination of the words mush and shum and with other syllables are often used to apply to vehicles or equipment which are associated with the noise and the fire. In an obscure myth called Enki and Eridu, the journey of the water god to Nippur, which relates to the Abzu of Enki, the Mishku is the name of some sort of living monster which is under the control of Enki. All right. And Ku means bright in Sumerian, but in the sense of the metallic brilliance and hints. When used with mush, means a bright metallic fiery object. It's a space vessel, it's an aircraft, okay? A perfect description of a rocket ship. And then you can see in some of the depictions in some of these temples where you see them sitting in the controls of a cockpit, and you can see them getting ready to fly off. I mean, they drew this or they stenciled this in clay. I mean, they stenciled what they saw. I'm just going to say that. They did. It's not a fantasy. It's not a story. I mean, this is literally what happened back then, because we've had technology for thousands of years. We're just now, because we're under the Zionist control since the fall of Tartary and the reconstruction of this dome, they've given us a narrative, but it doesn't quite add up because it couldn't destroy every single thing. They just couldn't. I mean, they didn't. These deluges happened, but there's still some remnants of the past civilizations. And you just have to put on your thinking cap and do your research. So it says Enki, or it says Enlil in the epitaph of creation is usually translated as a monster. And since Kai or Kea means to speak or mouth and is applied to openings which produce sounds and noise, Shemka probably means noisy flying serpent, and again refers to a craft of some sort used by Enlil. All right. The Sumerian word mush seems to have a Western Semitic equivalent as the term seerut or seeru, okay, which is usually shortened to seru, seru. The word has the same root as the word seraphim. Seraphim. Now you see in the Bible, like seraphim, cherubim, yeah. Flaming sword, flaming bush. I mean, it has so many connotations. I mean, you can look at it several different perspectives, right? The word seraphim, the flying or fiery serpent worshipped by the Israelites during the days of the Exodus. It is discussed in the following chapter. And that's chapter 8, the Sumerian serpent gods. And that's what I'll come back and I'll read. Now that chapter is a little bit longer, so I may have to break that up into a full hour or in 2 30-minute sessions. But I'm going to jump off of here because I'm at 27 minutes and I didn't want to make this video too long today. So in closing, we learned some of the names that the Sumerians had for dragons, and they explained in no uncertain terms who those entities were, right? The main cast of characters, as I like to say. So I appreciate you guys joining me. I hope that you do come back and listen to another reading. Again, I was reading from Flying Serpents and Dragons, and we covered chapter 7. And, I love talking about these reptilians, y'all. And it's called the Sumerian Names for Dragons. Incidentally, I did not post today over on YouTube my daily dose of cryptid news or cryptid encounters. I will do that shortly. And I will be back hopefully later on this afternoon. I'm going to get back into the murder of reality. And we're going to cover another chapter. And then at some point, I dropped something down here. And at some point, I want to get into Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids, because there's a lot of great information in here, right? Like he says, today we know that these people as the elites, but they have always been considered a parasitic race of beings as they live off the hard work of others. Parasitic race, custodians, Anunnaki, Nibirians, the Zionists, those who say they are Jews but are not. No pun intended. There are some good people out there in that religious consortium, but there are a lot of them who hide behind the narrative of Christianity, and they hide behind the Jewish faith, okay, religion, and it's because they're using it to their advantage, right? If you speak out or you speak out against these people, then you're called anti-Semitic, when they're not really truly from the Shem. They're not from the lineage of Shem. As I've read to you in The Murder of Reality, he covered that. So, not to be long-winded, I'm just simply saying, if you know, you know. And you just need to read and do your research and cross reference that with more material so that you can build in your knowledge or your wheelhouse and recall what's up here in the Rolodex and what's within you, right? We have 15 generations of epigenetic memories, and you just need to tap into that, right? So, anyway, I hope you guys have an amazing day. And remember what I always say, be the change you want to see all around this earth dome, because it's up to you and I to make a positive change. I'll talk to you guys soon.